Hello, everyone. I'm here to do a quick PSA on the drug ketamine. Ketamine is a Schedule 3 drug. It's classified as a dissociative anesthetic, and it is commonly referred to as an hallucinogen. And its most common form is this white powdery substance. So, a brief history in ketamine, just to get everyone started. Since the 1950s, the U.S. has been looking for the best anesthetic for surgery and recovery. The first drug that was largely tested for an anesthetic was a drug called PCP. However, it failed many of the clinical trials in terms of safety and effectiveness. So, as a response in the 1960s, the drug ketamine was developed, and this drug did see greater success as an anesthetic. However, with its strong hallucinogenic properties alongside its anesthetic properties, abuse began in the 1970s and it grew greater and greater. And then by the 80s, there were many more safe and effective anesthetics that had been introduced. So ketamine had largely stopped being used in the medical industry by the 80s. So as far as the mechanism of action that is responsible for ketamine's anesthetic and analgesic effects, ketamine and its metabolite norketamine act as antagonists by binding to the NMDA receptors and blocking their activation and preventing the release of glutamate. And as we know, glutamate is the brain's primary excitatory neurotransmitter. So with the inhibition of this neurotransmitter, we have ketamine's anesthetic and analgesic effects. Alongside ketamine's anesthetic effects, it is also known to be an antidepressant. The mechanism of action for the antidepressant effects are less known and understood, but to our current knowledge, ketamine and its metabolites like hydroxynorketamine stimulate AMPA receptors, triggering multiple signaling pathways that cause new synapse formations in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus that are believed to be responsible for ketamine's antidepressant effects. So the actual short-term effects of ketamine. You will experience disorientation, a dreamlike state, hallucinations, anesthesia, the inability to move, loss of coordination, increased salivating and urinating, the loss of feeling of pain, and forgetfulness. So among these effects, there are a lot of similarities to modern anesthetics, like the loss of feeling and pain and anesthesia. But unlike modern anesthetics that will put you completely under and you'll be unconscious, wake up drowsy, and then be good in a couple of hours, ketamine never really gets you unconscious. It kind of puts you in this in-between state of consciousness and unconsciousness. It separates your mind from your body, and it separates you from your surroundings. So it does work as an anesthetic in the sense that you won't feel pain and you won't be aware of the surgery, but you'll never really be unconscious like you would be with a modern anesthetic, which is largely why it stopped being used. So continuing on, my body system was the urinary system. A brief explanation of the urinary system. The urinary system is composed of the two kidneys and the bladder. The kidneys filter most things out of your blood and then reabsorbs everything that you would want in your blood back into your blood, and then leaves everything else in water that will turn into urine. And then the urine is then transported to your bladder, stored there until you urinate out of your body. The key functions of the urinary system: it regulates the volume of water in your body, it regulates the concentrations in your blood, it regulates the pH level of your blood, it regulates your blood pressure, it regulates red blood cell production, and it filters all the toxins out of your blood. So as far as ketamine's effect on the urinary system, there's something called ketamine bladder syndrome. Basically, ketamine is known to cause ulcerations of the bladder lining and chronic inflammation. Ketamine itself was found to activate pathways in the cells inside your bladder that will lead to programmed cell death, basically deteriorating the lining of your bladder. This can lead to the following irreversible effects after ketamine has been abused for an extended period of time. These effects would include painful urination, trouble urinating, the need to urinate frequently, the inability to hold your urine, and then cloudy or bloody urination. So some of the other long-term effects of abusing ketamine alongside ketamine bladder syndrome would include decreased sociability, flashbacks, ADD, impaired memory recall, and if you were to abuse ketamine and to stop using ketamine, some of the symptoms of withdrawal that you would experience would also include hearing loss, rapid heartbeat, loss of motor skills, double vision, loss of coordination, and rapid breathing. And if someone were to abuse ketamine, some of the signs of this would be nausea and vomiting, slow movement, impaired cognitive function, elevated heart rate and blood pressure, slurred speech. They'll pay less attention to their relationships, and they will lose track of their responsibilities. Now, the reason that people would use ketamine recreationally, it started in the 70s, mostly in the clubbing scene, and it continues to this day, and this use of ketamine continues to this day. But many younger people have also started to use it in spiritual ways, similar to ways people use peyote, magic mushrooms, and LSD. They will want to have spiritual awakenings or achieve out-of-body experiences. However, considering the long-term effects of abuse, including ketamine bladder syndrome and everything else I mentioned, and the heavy withdrawal symptoms, it's really not worth it compared to the alternatives. It's a pretty bad drug for your health, both physically and mentally. And if you really wanted a drug like this, there were a lot better options. So ketamine is a very dangerous drug to abuse. There was a reason we stopped using it in the medical field entirely by the 80s. So yeah, do not do ketamine.